This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. I'm Kate Sharon. Several communities in southern Indiana are getting ready to cash in on tourism dollars expected to be generated by the solar eclipse on April 8th, when a large swath of Indiana will be in the path of totality and up to 1 million people could visit the state. Alexis Berggren, executive director of Explore Evansville, told Inside Indiana Business even though other communities in the region will have longer periods of totality, the city wants to capitalize on the tourists it is expected to draw, calling the event a tremendous opportunity. Vincennes will have the most extended period of totality in the state, with more than 4 minutes of darkness. The event is so important to the city and Knox County that officials hired Sarah Wolf as the eclipse director. She told Inside Indiana Business she's helping the community get organized. Organizers are expecting an influx of about 100,000 people to that area. Polls opened for Election Day across Indiana this morning as Carmel voters prepare to elect a new mayor, and Indianapolis decides whether to give its current mayor a third term. In Indianapolis and Marion County, about 33,500 residents took advantage of in-person early voting, nearly 3 times the number recorded for the 2019 municipal election when the mayor's race was much more lightly contested. Mail-in absentee ballots nearly doubled to just about 9,900. This year, the battle between incumbent Democratic Mayor Joe Hogsett and Republican businessman Jefferson Shreve is the most expensive mayor's race in city's history, with campaign ads saturating internet sites, broadcast outlets, and voter mailboxes. Also up for election this year in Marion County are all 25 seats on the City-County Council, where Democrats currently hold a supermajority, and all city offices in Beech Grove, Lawrence, and Southport. All 3 of those cities feature contested mayor's races. Check the Indianapolis Business Journal's election blog throughout the day for updates from central Indiana polling places and for election results throughout the evening. David Malpass, a former president of the World Bank, will join Purdue University's Daniels School of Business as a distinguished fellow next year. Malpass led the World Bank Group from April 2019 to June 2023. Beginning January 1st, he will split his time between Washington, D.C. and Purdue's West Lafayette and Indianapolis campuses. Malpass will offer lectures, faculty research conversations, thought leadership events, and student and alumni conversations in his new role with Purdue. His joining the Daniels School comes several months after the university named Jim Bullard, a former president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank, the inaugural dean of the business school. From the #1 source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Get ready, Indianapolis. IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invite you to the annual Engage Central Indiana event. It's presented by CareSource, Indiana University, and Old National Bank. Wednesday, December 6th at the JW Marriott. We'll be diving into talent, education, and other issues shaping the Central Indiana economy. More at ibj.com/engage.
The Indiana Economic Development Corporation doesn't have the largest headcount, but the relatively small state agency spent an outsized amount of taxpayer dollars on spot bonuses, totaling $1.2 million over 2 years for a department with 114 employees. For comparison, the state's largest agency, the Indiana Department of Correction, has 5,149 employees and spent a total of $1.7 million over the 2 years analyzed. Combined, 10 of the state's largest agencies spent over $5 million in bonuses, with average payouts ranging from an IEDC high of $2,973 to a low of $231 at the Department of Environmental Management. Out of the 10 agencies analyzed by the Indiana Capital Chronicle, the IEDC stood out for its hefty repeated bonuses, including a total of $52,700 over 2 years to David Rosenberg, formerly the Chief Operating Officer and Chief of Staff, and now the head of the agency. Governor Eric Holcomb defended the agency's spot bonuses overall, which were revamped as part of his 2022 approach to address low state employee retention, and praised the quasi-public IEDC for superseding its goals. New federal funding will be used to promote Western Lake Erie Basin farmers' conservation efforts and improve water quality. The funding stems from the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service and its program called the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. Indiana, along with Michigan and Ohio, will receive a portion of a 2021 agreement totaling $7.8 million, which was allotted so the states can mitigate and reduce downstream runoff and better prevent algae blooms. Indiana producers interested in the project should apply by December 8th, or they will have to wait until the next funding cycle. The RCPP said potential participants should speak to their local district conservationists to discuss their options and submit an application. The United Way of Central Indiana named Martin Bout as its new Vice President of Major and Transformational Giving. This position works to strengthen its gifts pipeline and grow its base of philanthropic support, according to the job posting. Bout started in his new role Monday after 4 years as the Director of Development for International Advancement in Indiana University's Office of the Vice President for International Affairs. He has worked largely at nonprofits with 20 years of experience, including creating his own, being an Associate Executive Director at Bloomington's Buskirk Chumley Theater, and is Executive Director of Indie Baroque. A legal technology and services company previously based in Chicago has relocated its headquarters to Bloomington. Percipient, founded in 2013 by attorney Chad Main, has developed a platform to provide a variety of services, such as legal operations and compliance support, managed review, and e-discovery for in-house legal departments and their outside counsel. The company, which switched to a remote work model after the pandemic hit, is now officially operated out of The Mill, a business incubator and co-working space in Bloomington. Sports journalist Bill Benner is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. This is Kate Sharon for Inside Indiana Business, Radio on Demand.